everyone. Well,
greetings and salutations.
she likes that one. She went with that one today.
She hates that one.
No, I do like that one. I just wasn't expecting it on our main video. It's more of a weekly roundup thing.
I think greetings and salutations is an anytime saying.
Well, John Campia uses it all the time, so you're kind of...
Did that?
Natalie doesn't watch John Campia, so she didn't know that. She took that from the Heathers.
I did. Christian Slater.
Yes.
You guys have seen it, you understand.
But what is up, everyone? It is time for another weekly roundup. We have a guest that we will be bringing on momentarily.
We're super excited.
We are very excited, very excited. But first, let me go ahead and say hello. Thank you, Steven, for the $4.99 super chat. Evening, ladies. Love your guest. Keri is awesome. That is a great team. We are looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
We are looking forward to it. And to that, we say this.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And thank you, Steven. Good to see you, Mega Mac. Nice to see you in the house. And Steve, nice to see you. How he's missing the weekly roundup. That's okay. You can catch it later.
Yeah, that's what the replay's for.
Share Bear, always nice to see.
Always a pleasure.
The lovely Share Bear. And Marcos, the one, I mean, just the awesome.
I was just bragging on you before we started the show.
Yeah, the awesome moderator, Marcos. Keely, always nice to see you. Hello. To Brett. Good to see you as well.
Brett.
And Dominic, always nice to see you in the chat.
Very kind man, that Dominic.
Yes. Good to see you too as well. Is that Griffin? Why do I feel like that's spelled different than Griffin?
Griffon.
Griffon.
I like that.
Okay. Nice to see you. And Michelle and Natalie are just about finishing up their rewatch of Dune.
Guilty. We were.
Yes, you guys know how much we love Dune.
We cannot pull ourselves away.
Yeah. That's definitely it. Cher knows. She knows. She knows that's not what we were doing. And full review of Eternals coming out this Saturday. He knows us so well, guys. He knows us so well. That's not going to happen. But we will have, I believe, Afterlife. Ghostbusters comes out this week. So we will have a review of that this Saturday. So we will have that. And R2 the Icky, nice to see you as well.
Hello.
Chris, evening, ladies and gents. Evening to you, Mr. Ellis.
Mr. Ellis 007.
Yes. I was like, what do I say? I'm not just going to call him Mr. Bond, but yeah, he is Mr. Ellis, the one who brings us our James Bond references or titles is what he brings us, and we enjoy it. It is fun. It has become a new custom tradition on the weekly roundup.
It has.
We like it. And hello to Sith, Care Bear, Josh. Josh, it is always nice to see you. I don't know if men like to be called lovely, but it was just the word that came to mind in this situation.
Just very positive.
Yes, that's what I meant by lovely. That's nice.
On the channel, a subscriber for a while now.
From one of the beginning.
Yeah, so we appreciate you.
Josh, can you remember how many subscribers that we had when you first subscribed to us? Because you're an OG, man.
God, this.
Yeah, we really love it. We appreciate it. And yes, make sure to smash that like button. That's always nice. I see our Wi-Fi signal's a little weak. It's coming back, so
it's all coming back.
No time for bad Wi-Fi. That should be one, Chris. That should be one. No time to wait. we made you wait a little bit tonight.
Just a little bit.
And Rogue Disney, always nice to see you as well.
There.
Good to see you. And let's see. You guys chatting up. Rev Kev, nice to see you.
Hey, Rev Kev.
Always nice to see Rev Kev. And David! David with the $49.99 super chat. He leaves us speechless a lot.
He does.
I mean, he does. Yeah, baby. Yeah, okay. So I know which one to give Dave.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like for that I needed to give another one.
It gives me wings.
David gives us wings.
Thank you very much.
Talk about
David.
Another gentleman who always has words of encouragement.
He is.
I know.
Truly a gentleman.
We've got the most positive chat. I like it. I like it, guys. In a world full of negativity, we like that you guys, that our chat brings the positivity.
Even some of you straight white men seem to be all right out there.
So you're saying that they aren't evil?
That's the consensus that I've come to.
So
there are good straight white men.
Yes.
Who
Okay.
knew?
Yeah, I didn't know that based on what I'm told today, but our chat proves them wrong, guys. And thank you again so much, David. We always appreciate it.
We do.
Nice to see you as well. And AT Trouble, good to see you. And everyone else, let's see. Let me read this. Christine, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hey, ladies, just got here. Love my Tennessee ladies. Well, we love you too.
We love you. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
thank you very much.
And we love Tennessee the way that Brick loves his lamp.
Do you really love the lamp, or are you just saying it because you saw it?
I love lamp. I love lamp.
Thank you very much. Well, let's see. I see that our guest is backstage. So why don't we go ahead and bring our very lovely guest out this evening? How are you doing?
Hi. You have to use very lovely in quotes because, as you know, I was just painting my house and forgot about this, and I'm glad that you don't mind me coming on here sweaty and painty, and
Hey.
at least you can't smell me.
We're just happy to have you, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I believe it was when I was on with Nina and she said that you were coming on, and after I was like, man, I would love to have Keri on, and I think she was like, well, just ask her, and I was like, okay.
We just didn't think it would happen.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I apologize. It also took me a while because so here's what's happening. It's echoey in here because I'm selling my house tomorrow, and everything's been moved out. This art, I don't know if you can see that. That's not mine. Nothing here is mine. This desk is not mine. The realtor said we have to make it look better. So he got rid of all my furniture. It's like, hey, and then brought in all this stuff. It looks like Magnolia. I mean, it looks good. It's just it looks like a model home. So anyway,
I knew your background did not look familiar, but no, when she said that, we were meaning we know you are a very busy woman.
Yeah, we just thought, we were so excited.
Yes, very excited to have you on.
So where are you guys from in Tennessee?
We are the Chattanooga area. We're right by Odin.
Okay, I have family in Knoxville.
Okay, I'm in Knoxville a lot for work, actually.
Oh, great. Do you know the TV show Bringing Up Bates with Kelly Jo Bates? They used to be United Bates of America. She has 19 kids.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's filmed there. That's my cousin.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hold on. Your cousin has 19 kids?
Yes. All single births. Yeah,
wow.
She actually was friends with the Duggars, you know, that show.
Yes.
19 Kids and Counting. So they had a lot of those big families that are in that Quiverful movement, although I don't think she calls herself Quiverful. I do. But that movement, they kind of all know each other because they go to big family conventions. So there's
big family conventions.
Yeah. Yeah, they all have like 18 or 19. So then she was featured on the Duggar show several times, and then people liked it, and so TLC spun it off into their own show called United Bates of America. And then when Josh Duggar was outed as being on Ashley Madison, the Affair website, their show got canceled, and I think her show got canceled pretty soon after. Anyway, now they're on a different network and a different show title, but I know it's a funny. It's just a funny thing.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
It is.
That's my Tennessee family.
I actually know who you're talking about. I hadn't watched many episodes of the Duggars, but I guess I watched it back probably I don't know, 8-10 years ago.
I remember you watching it a little bit.
Yeah, just
it wasn't really your jam, but you watched it a little bit.
It wasn't really my jam, but it was interesting that they have all these children.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I remember them being on there though. And so yeah, that's cool. They got their own show.
So I don't know if this is a true story or not. It's just an anecdote. But I met someone in Austin once. So I used to live in Austin, Texas. Now I live a little north, and we're getting ready to move further north. But I met this person, and somehow it came up. This person was from Knoxville, and I said, "Oh, do you know my cousin? You know, Kelly J. Bates?" And he said, "I don't know them, but there's one restaurant in town that on Sundays kids eat free." And they used to always bring all 19 kids.
They're like, kids eat free except for this family.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. 19 kids.
There's got to be a lot on the body, you know. What I'm saying?
You got to take advantage of what you can with that many kids, right?
Right. They definitely do. well, again, we thank you so much for coming on. Our channel probably doesn't know this, Keri, but you kind of played a big role into where our channel has arrived. And I will tell you why. Because let's go back to 2020, even early summer 2020. Like I was still like, I couldn't, because people would talk about SJW type stuff, and I didn't really get what they meant. All I kept hearing were people like Geeks and Gamers, like hate on movies that had women in it. And that's all I could hear. And like, I couldn't stand listening to them and all that type stuff. So then one day I find you, I don't know who you are. I just see conversation with SJW. So I watch it, or former SJW, let's say that. And I begin to watch it. And as I listened, actually first it was just a clip, and I watched the clip. And then I was like, well, I want to hear the rest of what she has to say. So I go back and I watch the full conversation. And it was like, as you were talking, like the light bulbs began to go off in my brain. And I was like, oh. And it was like on so many different fronts, different things I've gone through in the seminary I went to. But then also, it's what opened me up to like, well, maybe Jeremy isn't sexist.
Right.
And maybe Geeks and Gamers
So you're
aren't that bad.
There's a chance.
Yeah. And plus the whole Koof thing Jeremy was like one of the few people making sense in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I'm starting to like this guy. And then it was once I heard you, I began to be like, okay, well, maybe there's more to what these guys are saying. And it's not just because there's women as a lead role or things like that. And it definitely, so it was you who actually allowed me to ultimately subscribe and like people like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and Gary from Nerdrotic and, all these other people, because of opening up again my understanding of kind of what we were talking about.
Right. That's interesting because I have a friend who, first of all, thank you. I'm glad anytime somebody says, hey, your videos have helped me understand something better. Because I've had people do that for me, and I completely get it when you're like, I know something, but I'm having trouble connecting these dots. And then Jordan Peterson was a person who did that for me. And thank you for that. But and you're making me think of this sort of new friend. I only know this person from Twitter, who's still very much on the left, who has been messaging with me. And I like him. And from his point of view, he's trying to understand a little bit more what I'm saying. But from his point of view, he was saying, he looked at some of the Friday Night Tights guys and he's like, they're so mean and they're cracks kind of thing. And that surprised me because I think because there's a danger of the further I get away from my old beliefs and the further I feel at home with people who critique my old beliefs, I'm also very comfortable with people who do it in a funny and what can seem like a mean-spirited way. I don't think those guys are mean. I just think there's no sacred cows for them. And so, and they have a different style and they don't mind being abrasive, and everybody has a different, well, like in the Bible, everybody has a different talent and a different skill and a different use for God. I truly believe that.
Definitely.
And I think it's the same with, you could take that and apply it to something outside of religion. Like, let's say people who are fighting back in this culture war against a very bad ideology, there's room for all different kinds of tactics. And
Yes.
so, but yeah, that's interesting to me because I have to remind myself that some people, when they hear someone who's got a different style, it's maybe they can't hear what's being said, because also there's the tendency, something you said that's very important, to just lump there are sexist people out there. There are people out there who don't like more women in film, or what have you. And so all those people, is that you can mistake one type of person who has a very good point about woke ideology for just a common garden variety old-fashioned misogynist. It's like, no, that's not the same. Like, they're not saying the same thing, but from low resolution it looks like they are, right?
Definitely. Well,
but they're not all under the same blanket.
And I mean, this should be taken, it's gotten hard to describe like what I am politically, because we hold certain titles, and sometimes I pretty much I've come to the conclusion the best thing I could call myself politically is a conservatarian. Like, I lean conservative, but on the libertarian side of that. Okay. And so even coming from that point of view, I was still really struggling with like a Jeremy's approach, where when I began to hear you, it was done in such kind of a nuanced, subtle way. It was like, oh, it was very palatable to me and reasonable.
I can honestly say there really has been like a change in you, like a change in your attitude and how you view things. So that's really cool.
It genuinely, I'm not saying this just to make you feel good. It genuinely started with that conversation I heard you have, because I immediately I watched it like twice.
Which one was that? Was that on their channel?
No. I first heard you.
I know.
Trigonometry.
I first heard you on with Carlin.
Yeah, that's where I first heard you.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Wow.
Hey, good things happen sometimes.
Silver linings. Yeah, silver linings.
Yes. I found you just randomly on that, and I became, a much bigger Keri fan. But anyways, it truly was through that, and then I began to send it to my brother and different people who went to the seminaries I went to. And that's a conversation I'd say we'll have on your channel too, as far as kind of what it woke me up to in my seminary. But so it was two front. Like, I saw what was going on there, and it was like, dang, all the stuff that used to bother me, and I didn't know why it bothered me. I know now. And then again, it's like you said, even that my sister saw a change. It was like, okay, so maybe these guys have a point, and maybe my brother, who I've been fighting with over Star Wars for 2 years, has had a point this whole time.
Because I think before it had made you feel kind of like
defensive. Defensive of like, it's just the women issue, and it's like
it's like in your head, it's like kind of like, but it all comes back to you just don't like, or and certainly like our brother, it's not the case.
Not at all.
For so many men, that's not where they're coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've talked to those Friday Night Tights guys, and there's lots of shows, like, I agree with them. I've heard, I don't know which ones, but I've heard several of them on the show say, I think we were all in agreement that I appreciated Battlestar Galactica, the remake, where they made Starbuck a woman, and they made Boomer an Asian woman. I mean, they swapped people out. They changed the race of characters. They changed the sex of characters, but it wasn't done in this preachy, moralizing way. It wasn't done. That wasn't the way they marketed it. That wasn't it was still about the story. And it wasn't like, compare and contrast that to something like when they redid Ghostbusters with women.
Yeah.
The whole marketing is, it's Ghostbusters, but it's with women, so it's better, It's like, no. Well, just do that subtly, right?
Yes, and they're right. And even what they were saying, and that's again when I began to, it was through first you, and even just kind of 2020 in general began to soften me to like a Jeremy in general. And I mean, I would love to have Jeremy on our channel at some point, but it kind of opened up my eyes to, okay, so there is more here. And then you do begin to see, and you begin to reflect and kind of say, in pop culture, there's now this say with women, there's a very generic female character.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just not a very good character. Where meanwhile, say even back to Our Brother, a movie that was I loved from the time I was a kid, and even as an adult can bring tears to my eyes in certain scenes, is A League of Their Own. Like, I love that
Oh,
movie.
I love that movie. Yes.
It's a
So
great
good.
movie. And our brother loves that movie, and people in our chat love that movie. And what my point in that is, I was then able to begin to reflect. It's like A League of Their Own has very well developed female characters that go through adversity.
Yes.
You know, Betty loses her husband, like all these different things. And then I began to able to listen to what they were saying about the female characters today and reflect, and was like, they're right. Like, they're not developing characters in the
No.
same way that they once did.
No, that whole Mary Sue archetype that's now developed. And my friend Mystery Chris, he's on our show sometimes. He's my geek and gamer friend. He's the one that turned me on to Friday Night Tights, but he was explaining Mary Sue to me a while back, and I'll always remember he said it's basically when they take a character, they make it a woman, they remove all personality and all adversity, and she's just naturally good at everything and is completely boring and unrealistic. And that's what I see happening. Yeah, it's like, you know, A League of Their Own is a great example. Terminator. Remember Linda Hamilton and those big guns of hers, those like the arms. But the arms is not my point. She was a well-developed character. She had adversity, like Sigourney Weaver and Alien. Like, these were great female leads, strong leads, and they were complicated, and they weren't this sort of I'm amazing. What was it when they made Batman a woman and they were doing promos for it, and they had her talking about the suit, the bat suit, and how it will be perfect once a woman wears it. Once a woman wears it,
I know.
Like, you're not getting it. Like,
or there's that line, I believe Jennifer Lawrence said, I didn't see it, but the last X-Men movie, Jennifer Lawrence character's like, why do we call it the X-Men when the women are doing everything or something?
All the heavy lifting.
Yes.
Yes.
So, you know what's also interesting? Think about this. So it's sort of like, what's edgy is the thing that's taboo or off limits at the time, and it's not the norm. So back when it was, and I worked in entertainment, I know there is a boys club culture. Yes, I experienced sexism. I do have a hard time sometimes looking back now and trying to pick apart what was sexism and what was just me interpreting everything as sexism at the time, because I was in a place that told me to do that. But but I did experience sexism in entertainment, and I think, and if you looked at the kinds of shows that were being made, it helps you to be when you're in the room pitching. Sometimes it did help you to be a straight white man, and now. Here's the thing. So at the time, it was edgy then to not be that. That's what was edgy. Putting women in roles, etc., but not like trumpeting it as this marketing thing. Now the dominant culture has changed, and in Hollywood it's changed. And even these people who are not true believers in social justice, they're just like chameleons and con artists and snake oil salesmen. They're used car salesmen. That's what most agents are. They're just going to preach whatever's selling. So now they've all adopted social justice. And it does not help you to be a straight white man. I've talked to numerous writers, people who are still in Los Angeles. It's like, they will tell you to your face, oh, I'm sorry. I know that we had to skip over you already 2 times before for the writer's position, even though you're the writer's assistant. Normally we promote a writer's assistant. That's what happens when somebody leaves. But we still can't promote you because you're a white man, and we can't have another white man on the writing staff. So do you mind waiting again? Yeah, like, it doesn't help you. So now what's edgy? Now what's interesting, what's edgy? It's the opposite. It's the kind of humor that maybe someone like Jeremy, that in the past you would have been like, that guy's really, maybe he's abrasive, or he sounds that way to me, right? Or maybe he sounds sexist. And it's like, that stuff is funny now, by the way, because you guys have made it taboo.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Like, I'll give one quick example in case anybody doesn't know what I mean. A new friend who's also a podcaster, Sarah Higdon, who's trans, so a male to female transgender woman, who just she told me this joke, and it was said somebody was asking her, Sarah, can you drive? Like, can you drive tonight or whatever? And she was like, yeah, I used to be a man. That's funny. That is funny because you're like, oh, you can't make jokes like that anymore. You know, like you can't make any. So
Well, you
that
can't
may
make
not have
any
been
jokes.
funny. Yeah, you can't make any jokes. And something like that, I may not have laughed at 10 or 15 years ago, but now because of this very puritanical woke culture that won't let you make any jokes like that, it's like that's really funny to me now. It's a stereotype about women not being able to drive. Okay,
Right.
I'm laughing because you say I can't.
Yeah. Oh, well, that makes me think too. This is random, but it made me think there's this, it cracked me up. And it was one of the things, maybe back in the day, I might have been slightly, I don't know. I think I would have always laughed, but it said, why have women always struggled with picking like where they want to eat? And it had a picture of Eve. And it said, because the last time a woman chose, they doomed humanity.
Yes. See? That is funny again. That's just, yeah, you're not supposed to have any fun. How dare you? It's so problematic. You guys just laughed at that. Like we should deserve to be canceled. We're internally misogynistic, you know, all the words, all the things.
Well, and Keri, with you on, I wanted to, because we talk about, you know, so often I feel like words, and again, you were the one that broke it down for me, SJW, woke, these type of words, they're kind of thrown out, but maybe sometimes people like myself back in the day, we don't really get what they mean. So for our audience, I would like you would say they hear us talk about SJWs, but I would like you to tell them, like, define what is an SJW and what kind of is their purpose. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, so the easiest way I've been able to define this is, so it stands for social justice warrior. And it actually was a term that we, social justice warriors, coined originally. The only reason they don't like it now, social justice warriors don't like it now, is because enough people use it in a negative way. They're criticizing social justice when they use it. And you'll notice woke, which social justice people also coined, they now are saying they don't like woke. AOC is saying, you know, we don't like woke. It's being used as a pejorative. The truth is it doesn't matter what you call it. They will keep renaming it because they don't want you to be able to criticize it. And if you can't name it, you can't criticize it. So this is why whenever people are successful at, I'd say, taking shots at it and exposing it for what it is, like Chris Rufo and James Lindsay have been with exposing the critical race theory part of social justice.
Yeah, which is not taught in schools, by the way.
Right. So then what happens? So then they deny it's taught in schools. Again, that's like renaming. They try to shift the goalposts. So you can't, so if they're constantly moving, you can't hit the target. And there's actually, I'm going to refer to an old school feminist, Betty Friedan, in The Feminine Mystique. She wrote this in the 60s, was it the 50s or 60s? In a part of that book, and this is a classic piece of feminist literature, she starts talking about the problem that has no name. Now, in her case, she's talking about this malaise that women were feeling at the time. And she argues throughout the book that it's because women are being culturally kept back from pursuing education and pursuing the careers they want. And they have this unhappiness, deep unhappiness about them, and it has no name, and therefore you can't talk about it because we don't know what to call this, right? I'm going to take that and apply it to this. It's similar. They don't want us to name this because how can you criticize something that you can't name? So there are lots of names for it because they're always moving. Social justice warrior, woke, intersectionality, critical race theory. These are all part of the same belief system. And what it is, for anybody who's new to hearing about it, it's a mutated form of Marxism. So if you think about the Marxism you learn about in school, or hopefully you learn about in school, which now I'm just saying, this is SJW for dummies. So this is the best. There are people much smarter than me that can get into all the roots of it. But if you think of that old kind of Marxism as telling us that the best way to look at the world is as a competition for wealth among class groups, and that we need to redistribute the wealth so that we equalize, so that everyone is equal. We have to redistribute wealth because the whole world is about this competition for wealth among these different groups. So this is similar, but it's changed. It says the best way to look at the world is as a competition for power.
Yeah.
Power is at the center among identity groups, and that all these groups are at different stages, and we need to redistribute power so that all the groups are equal. So it tells you, how do you do that? How do you redistribute power? Well, it tells you you have to judge and treat people differently based on what group they're in.
Let's say too, for our audience. So right now they're having to take it away from the white straight male.
Yes.
And give it to everyone else.
Yes. So when they encounter you, they say they don't believe in individualism. This is a collectivist ideology. Collectivist ideologies, whether they're organized around race or sex or sexuality or whatever they're organized around, or class, they look at people as group members first, individuals second. And this is a collectivist belief system. So when you meet a person, you're not supposed to treat them as an individual. You're supposed to treat them as a member of whatever identity groups they're in. So because let's say they're a straight white male, well, then they're assumed to have all this different power. White power, they have white privilege, they call it privilege. So white privilege, they have power or privilege because they're straight. They have power or privilege because they're a man. And so they're supposedly at the top of this hierarchy. And you need to, and so they need to be, that's why they say it's okay to discriminate against them. Like in that writer's room I was talking about in Hollywood, it's okay to discriminate against people on the basis of race and sex and sexuality. They say we have to do that in order to equal things out. And they believe at some point in the future, if we do enough of this discrimination on the basis of race and sex and stuff, that eventually we'll hit a magical place where everything's equal. But if you ask them, I love asking them, so how are you proposing that we judge? How do we measure the amount of power among groups? And how do we know when we've hit our end goal? They have no idea. No idea. And let's say we hit that end goal like in 40 years, right? Let's say you come up with some standard, some way of measuring it and saying, okay, we now achieved equality. Okay, then how do you go back at that point and tell generations of kids that you've raised and told them it's impossible to be racist towards white people, or it's impossible to be sexist towards men? How do you now tell them, oh, wait, we hit the magical equality point now. Okay, now that's racist. You can't do that anymore. Right? Like it's suddenly possible to be racist towards white people now. What? Like,
yes. Yeah. They're pretty much like ringing bells that you can't unring, like teaching Black kids that they are oppressed and the white person is the oppressor and
the aggressor.
Oppressor.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just like at that point, racism is taught. And it's like you're teaching them this and they're going to live that out. Like you can't unring that bell, as you said, if they do arrive at this equal footing. At that point, the damage is done, which I say you would agree. I would just have to argue as whoever started this, that's their end goal anyways.
Oh, yes. That is their end goal. It's basically, you guys are believers, so I'll say it this way. It's like the devil found a new way to sell something that's really old. Yes. It's like, you know what? Yeah. Racism is on the decline in the US. So I've got to find a new way to sell racism. He's like, I'm going to call it anti-racism. Yeah. Right. Right. And look what's happening.
Not to be racist, you got to be anti-racist.
Yes. Yes. What a clever way of selling it. And they do that with words. Like they are very obsessed with controlling language because, like George Orwell wrote about, that's the way you control thought. So they will call it the exact. So they call it anti-racism. They call it when they're bullying you, they call it radical kindness. Yeah. They call they have all these new Orwellian terms for you to try and disguise what it is they're doing, like Antifa. That supposedly stands for anti-fascist, but they behave like fascists. Like Black Lives Matter. They call it Black Lives Matter because they're hoping you won't be able to criticize that because everyone should believe Black Lives Matter. So they name it this thing. I'm like, it's sort of like someone on our show said, do the people that fall for this only shop at Best Buy because they think it has the Best Buys? Like that, but that's what it is.
It genuinely is. Yeah. That radical kindness. I don't know if you've seen some of the comments the celebrities have had against this Kyle Rittenhouse situation. There's been a lot of radical kindness from celebrities about a 17-year-old boy.
Wow. That's what they call it. They think that it's that they have to, that radical kindness is holding you to account and treating you to the consequences of your, problematic behavior. But it's just a good way of justifying bullying.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that is the humorous thing about it, is it's like this group that's supposed to be all about inclusion and equality and kindness.
They're incredibly self-righteous.
They're incredibly self-righteous. Like, they are incredibly cruel. Like, I mean, some of the comments about
incredibly uninclusive.
Yes. Yeah. Very uninclusive. White people out. Like, everyone. If you're a Black person who doesn't agree with them, out. You're internally racist. And that, back to what you said.
If you're a trans person that doesn't agree with them, you're out.
You're out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can be.
They hate Sarah Higdon, the YouTuber I mentioned. She was in Atlanta, I believe, with Ariel Scarelli. Do you know her, Ariel? So Ariel's lesbian. She's also left the left, and she and Sarah were walking around, and somebody recognized them from their channels, I guess, and messaged Ariel and was like, "You're not welcome in this gay part of town. Like, you're not welcome here because you're a gay person with the wrong opinions, right?" Like, that's the attitude. The truth is, all this stuff they use, race, sexuality, trans, everything that they use, they don't mean it. And you can tell just based on what you just said. Yeah, because if you're in any of those so-called oppressed groups and you don't speak their ideology, you're out. And they give everybody reasons why not. Don't listen to that Black person, right? Like, don't listen to that trans person. But if you're a white person, they always say white people need to shut up and sit down, right? And listen. Except if you're a white person who speaks this belief system, they love it when you talk. Look at Rama D'Angelo. It's a white woman who's made a ton of money on this belief system because she's allowed to speak because she speaks the ideology. At the end of the day, it's like they can't just go out and say you have to speak this one belief system, one belief. They're like, it's about race and it's about trans and it's about sex and it's not about any of that. At the end of the day, it's about controlling people.
It's all just, it's pawns,
Absolutely. Controlling speech. But I don't know why no one's made this meme yet, but with the elections that happened in Virginia and with is it the lieutenant governor who won, who was a Jamaican?
It's a Black woman. Yes.
And, all the articles coming out, the she's a white supremacist. It's like, why has no one made the meme? The current, far left literally views her as like Dave Chappelle's first episode on the Chappelle Show, where he is the blind Black guy who leads the KKK. Like, that is what
I love that one.
Yes. They should actually, if anybody's in the chat with Photoshop skills, can you actually take all the Black people that they've called white supremacists? So Larry Elder, Charles Barkley, Candace Owens.
Yeah.
What's her name that just won in Virginia? She's got an interesting name. What is it?
It's Winsome is the last name.
Yeah. Winsome Sears.
Yeah.
Take Winsome, take all and put them all in one meme and at the bottom be like, meet the new white supremacy. And it's just all Black people. Yes. The new face. Somebody please make that for us. We will put it out there. You can put your name on it, whatever. We'll put it out for you. I would love to have that meme.
Yeah. I mean, the celebrities came out on that one too, about fighting the white supremacy that was taking place in Virginia. I mean, it's really, like, if you look back, you're just like, man, this is really stupid. Like, how is everyone not seeing that this is stupid? Like, I'm believing Keri, and that's why even people like you say when the last election came around, and all these people that you see waking up to the craziness of what is the current left.
It is good to see that, though. I feel like that's been like a silver lining, like you mentioned earlier. I think to all this is people are kind of starting to wake up and see, hey, what they're saying on the news, that's right in front of my eyes, that's not true. So that they're starting to see, the corruption and the all the lies.
Yeah,
it's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because so I started to wake up during what I consider to be one of the acceleration points of the ideology. I was in it, for anybody that doesn't know, I was in it for 20 years. So what do
you think made it accelerate? Trump?
One of those acceleration points was Trump. Yes. So during the course of the 2016 election, and then immediately after, that was a period of acceleration where they really doubled down. Everyone around me was doubling down, and suddenly it became easier for me to see it for what it was. After 2 decades in it, I could see it because people were suddenly talking about, well, I saw videos of people on my side using violence against Trump supporters, like going to rallies and attacking them. And it's like, wait a minute, I believe in the non-aggression principle. Like, I don't believe in violence. What is this? And we're celebrating this now, and just trying to justify it with words, like using sophistry and trying to say, well, it's okay to punch Nazis, and these people are all Nazis, all 63 million of them, and they're all, that it's attempting to justify something evil. And that bothered me, and I could see it. And I could also see the increasing censorship, and as your eyes start to be open to one small thing to another, it was like the foundation of my belief system cracked. And then it was a slow transition. It was several years long. It wasn't immediate. It was 6 months after I first started waking up that I wrote my first piece trying to explain it to people who were in my old ideology. But there was another acceleration point with George Floyd this past summer. And
yes. Okay.
And so that helped a lot of people wake up, because it got even crazier, because now you've got riots and protests and cities on fire and people dying in these riots, and the media is calling it mostly peaceful.
Yeah, mostly peaceful as the building's on fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So that helps some people wake up. And then at the same time, they're saying you can't go out to protest lockdowns because that makes you a bad person and a super spreader, but you can go to these riots, and that's cool. And medical professionals, experts saying this, that woke a lot of people up. At the same time, though, here's what's weird. Maybe you guys have seen this. Sometimes I think what happens during acceleration points is it's a catalyst for some people to wake up because they can suddenly see this craziness around them, but it's a catalyst for other people to go deeper in. I saw people who went deeper in during both acceleration points.
Almost like you pick a side,
Yes. That's fascinating to me. Those people that go more in. I think it's James Lindsay talked about this. I think it's almost like, sunken cost fallacy. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So, or maybe it's not a fallacy, but sunken cost. It's like where you've sunk so much cost into something. Let's say, you put so much time and so many years into this relationship, and even though you now see that this person is a liar and not worth it, you shouldn't be with this person. You don't want it to all have been for nothing, and so you stay in the relationship because you've invested so much. It's already cost you so much. Or a job that you've put lots of time and years into, or a house. Let's say you sink a lot of money into a house and it's falling apart like a money pit, but you're like, no, I've spent so much, I can't get out now. People do that with belief systems. They're like, I put too much of myself in this in so many years, and I can't be wrong now.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. That totally makes sense.
Well, as you bring up a lot on your show and on Twitter, I would say, that people talk about kind of our country going away from God, or kind of becoming not believing in a God at this point. But it's kind of like the number one religion in our society today is politics. And you see that especially in like kind of this SJW far left camp. And that's where I think you're totally right.
It is very much a religion.
It is. And it's like they believe it with all their heart. And it's like,
if Christians were that on fire for God, we could change the world.
Right? Like, they are shaping culture in a way Christians are not.
Yes.
Like, we got to get on board. We got
yes, definitely. That is actually people always think that Force of Light. Okay, it was a play on my love of Star Wars and Christianity. Force, of course, from the Force, and light, because I love John and his gospel. He always talks about Christians being light. But it also, Force, actually, when I came up with this name, it actually came from yes, it could tie into Star Wars, but it also ties into another scripture, and it's a scripture that's highly debated. And Jesus says that, I don't know it off the top of my head fully, I'm put on the spot, but he says that they take it by force. And he's talking about the church. And it's a very debated scripture because of how, that could be taken in a wrong way. But I've always just taken it as, Christians in this regard are to, just as SJWs go after it with all their heart, that Christians are to go after it, like take it by force, not physically, but to be that aggressive, to be
a force of nature,
to be a force of light. That's how I came up with this title. Is actually those two scriptures that Christians, and I actually originally had forces, and it was like, no, force, like it's one singular force, like moving forward. And but she is totally right.
I don't mean to sound weird, but the three of us, like, I feel the Holy Spirit right now. Do you feel it, Michelle?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the bottom line is it's like you have, as we said, SJWs, they're going to come at it constantly. And that's why we, whether it's Christians or whether it's, people like Jeremy and Ryan who maybe speak in a different language than I do as a Christian,
but we can
unify together and coming against something that I will just straight say, you kind of said it before, it's kind of the devil, to be real, because it is
his agenda.
It's based in division and strife and everything that James says comes from not from God, from worldly wisdom that leads to all these things. And it really is, but they are just so sold out, and you do see that. But I am thankful, as you said, for people that are beginning to wake up more and more to what's going on.
You're part of that.
Definitely.
So
yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no,
Tell me more about, no, I'm kidding. What is, I was just going to look up, what is that Bible verse, though? Because I want to see that.
Gosh, let me see
if I can find it.
Natalie,
see if you can find it.
You read Mr. Buttcrack.
Oh, yes, Mr. Buttcrack. Thank you very, very much. Hello to the beautiful ladies of Force of Light. Always love your shows. And hello to Keri Smith. Well, thank you so much.
What a great
Mr. Buttcrack. He's out there a lot. We love Mr. Buttcrack.
There's so many funny YouTube names. There's one person who watches our show. I always laugh, I always giggle when he gives a super chat. His name is I'll Fight You Naked.
I like it.
That's a good one.
I love it. And Keri, I found it. It is Matthew 11 and 12. And it says, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. And it's a very debated scripture amongst scholars.
Wow. Okay.
I just take it personally, just my own reading into that context. I've always just taken it, again, we know Jesus has said, he says in the scripture that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So therefore he's not condoning violence, but just that, I mean, I think you see throughout the Bible, just keep pressing, like keep speaking. And that's what's interesting. Man, we've turned into a Christian channel now. It's fine.
It is, but what it reminds me of, Michelle? It's that Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie.
Yes. Okay, this scene will bring tears to my eyes every time.
My mom will send me this sometimes, like almost just as an encouragement. But like, I know, see, it makes me cry. But when she's on the battlefield, and she's like, "I'm the man who can," or not, whatever. Yeah. But she gets out there, and there's just all these bullets, and she just like hold the shield.
Do you know what we're talking? Have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have not seen it. Okay, now I have to watch it.
Just for that scene.
But it's just, and she just like, she looks it, but then she just keeps pressing forward, and it's just, I don't know, it does something.
Listen, that scene. Okay, so the first Wonder Woman was a female character done right, and you will know it when you watch it. It's the no man land, like literally
no man's land
from World War I scene. That whole sequence is one of my favorite sequences in any comic book movie. Like, fantastic.
It's not even about it being a woman. It's just a great scene.
There's something powerful.
I've heard that strength and perseverance.
I've heard men say it affects them emotionally. Yeah. Like, it's just a powerful scene.
One of my favorite powerful scenes with a woman you're making me think of is the one that I can think of. Do you remember? Oh gosh, I can't think of the name now. It was the movie with Demi Moore where she played a soldier. And she went, and they didn't want her to become a Marine. I know what you're talking
about. Yes, I've never seen that movie.
Is it G.I. Jane? Was that
yes, G.I. Jane. Yes. Okay, so she has this misogynistic, abusive guy in charge of her, and he really just doesn't like a woman being there. And at the end, he's beating her up, and like, you're not one of us, you're not one of the guys. And he's just taking liberties and overstepping the bounds of what he's supposed to be doing, and really torturing her in front of the other soldiers. And he's beating her up in the rain, and she gets back up each time. And then she tells him, suck my D. That line, it's really kind of like, because that line is like, I am one of the guys. Like, not that I am a guy, I think I'm a guy, but like, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter that you're beating me up. Like, I'm spitting this back out at you. And I just love that. That scene gave me chills when I was younger. And admittedly, I was a feminist then and social justice person. I think it's still a great scene. I love it.
Well, I'll have to watch it now.
I know, now I'm going to see the movie.
Yes, I've never seen that.
It's a really good, it's a pretty good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never watched that actually at all. So that will be a first watch.
Yeah,
Natalie.
there
We'll
we
have to be G.I. Jane. We like to do our first watches. Yes, but what was I saying on that scripture? My mind gets so ADHD.
Oh, the force. Well, you're saying you compared it to that scene from Wonder Woman about just keep pressing.
And that was her too. And what I was going to say, and I'm sure we'll get on this on your channel, back to controlling speech. What was the thing that the Pharisees hated about Jesus? Was it the miracles he did? Was it all that, like his personality? It says in scripture, they hated the words he spoke, because his words exposed them for the hypocrite they were.
He wasn't religious in the way they wanted. And
and it's literally the same thing with kind of this SJWs. Like, they can't stand, I'm sure you or definitely, even a Jeremy, anyone who exposes them, because you can expose them so easily once you know what you're dealing with, which again, and that's why I hope everyone in the crowd tonight are watching later. When I listened to you that first time, it was that light bulb going off of, because I think there are so many people that maybe are more conservative, or, I've definitely, again, consider myself a conservatarian, in that camp, that we didn't really get, we just didn't understand the culture war. And I feel like people that have kind of come from the left towards the middle, that are fighting against that now, have helped conservatives so much open up our eyes to, this is what we've been fighting, and we've just kind of not cared to fight back.
Right.
And we've let them win all these years. And that's what's so awesome about seeing, parents get into these, fighting for their children at schools, because they finally understand you've got to engage in this culture war. Like, it is real,
or it's going to just over.
Okay, you guys, I want to recommend a guest for you. You should have my preacher on, Bradley Helgerson. We're going to have him on this Friday on our show with, we're having him on with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Mark Pellegrino. He's the actor who played Lucifer, and he's currently on Rust or something. I forget what it's called, but he was Jacob on Lost. That's the show I watched him on.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
So Mark Pellegrino is super intelligent, atheist, and also I think he's the president of Capitalists of America, or some kind of capitalist organization. This guy's very intelligent, and we're having him on with my preacher, who's also one of the smartest people I know. And I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. They're not necessarily going to debate religion, but we'll probably get there at some point about, like, where does your sense of morality come from? Like, what is the foundation? How do you develop the foundation of your belief system? And can atheists and Christians be allies in this fight against social justice? So that's what that topic is. But I mentioned him because he's given sermons recently on all these things you're talking about. He just gave this fire sermon about parents are responsible for their kids. And he was saying, it's not the government, it's not the school board, it's not the teacher. You're, at the end of the day, you. And he specifically called out dads. He was like, fathers, you're responsible for what your kids are learning, what belief system they're being given. And he makes a really good argument for, a lot of people on the left, and a lot of liberals even, I wouldn't even say social justice people, but actual liberals, like classical liberals, a lot of them have the opinion that you shouldn't raise your kids with a religion or a belief system because that's limiting, right?
Yeah.
I used to have that belief, this idea that like you need to let your kids choose for themselves what they want to believe at the right time, right? Okay, that is nonsense. Your kid, if you don't give them a belief system, they're gonna get one from somebody. If you're not giving them like, hey, this is the best way, I think, as your parent and in charge of your growth and your spiritual growth and your intellectual growth and your, thinking, trying to keep you healthy and intellectually and psychologically. Here's the best way to look at the world. Here's the story about the world and how to interact in it. If you don't give them that story, the school system will give them one. They'll give them this social justice Marxism and tell them the best way to look at the world is as a competition for power among identity groups, and the whole world is about different groups oppressing other groups, and that's the lens through which to interpret everything.
Yes.
No. And so I got on a tangent. Oh, but you would love him. And he changed my thinking. He changed my thinking on that because I want to have kids. I mean, I decided late because I've been growing up late. I left the cult late. So I don't know if I'm going to have 19 like my cousin, but I'd like to have at least one.
19 would be a little expensive.
It does.
And taxing.
A lot of energy.
One. Right. But I'm no longer conflicted about that. I'm like, no, I believe this is the best belief system, and I believe in God, and I'm not going to deprive my child of that, of something that is meant to love and instruct your child and provide healthy boundaries for them and a blueprint for the best way to live in the world, which I think is the way Jesus talked about. That's my personal belief. So why would I say, oh, I'm not going to make my kid go? Of course, you're going to be there every Sunday till you're 18. Unless you have a good excuse.
Definitely. Well, and it's funny. I
was just thinking, if you don't talk about it and kind of like and want to show them that love and the love of God, it's like we're all as human beings, even the atheists, we're searching for something. There's some kind of void, there's some kind of hole. So it's like, of course you want to be the one to lovingly show them like this is available to you. His love is available to you, his forgiveness, but yeah, definitely what you were saying.
And even back to the scripture I brought up that they take it by force, they're constantly pushing their belief systems. Like you're saying, like your kids are constantly going to get the belief systems of the world, of Hollywood. I mean, we've got frickin' Elmo preaching to our, kids about vaccines and about different stuff. We've got, just everywhere. But they take it by force. Like they take it by
force. They make your job contingent on it. They've managed to get it into certain fields. I saw Jordan Peterson was tweeting recently about in Canada now, in order to get your license to practice law, you have to sign one of these diversity, inclusion, equity statements. Like that's like putting religion into, you can't get your license, your business license for XYZ unless you're this religion, and you have to sign this statement saying you are. That would never fly with Christianity. And I wouldn't want it to. I don't want to force Christianity on people. It's free will. It's like up to you to decide if you believe in God or not. I would never want to live in an authoritarian society that's, even if it's my belief system, it's like, because my belief system is not authoritarian. It's like, it's voluntary. Nope. You choose. It's up to you. You have an individual relationship with God if you want one. That's up to you. But absolutely. But they are not. They're completely authoritarian. And we've seen that they've taken the mask off this past year and a half. Where they're like, you can't work if you don't do this. You can't provide for your kids. Hey, guess what? We believe the government can tell you that you can't leave your house and go make a living and put food on the table for your kids, and that you have to become dependent on the government for a stimulus check because they're not going to let you go to work. Like, that is authoritarian. And that's they're trying to force people to become status where their God is the state, their God's the government. And it's like, you're right. They are so much further along. It's like, I think back to the way I thought of fundamentalist Christians in the 80s and 90s, and they were culturally very relevant then. They did push a lot of culture then, but nothing compared to the fundamentalist leftists are like, hold my beer. Like, let me get involved. We're going to put it in the law too, Like,
they're like the fundamentalists were out, like telling their kids not to watch Harry Potter. Well, we're gonna put it in writing. Like, yeah, it is. It's more extreme than anything that Christians ever went to.
Totally. And by the way, I just because it's in the back of my mind, and I want to make sure I have this caveat, lest anyone hear me and think, "Oh my gosh, Keri's such a fundamentalist." If I raise the way I'm talking about raising my kids, I'm still a liberal at heart. I still like to visit other churches. I visited Catholic churches, a Cowboy church. I want to go to a Greek Orthodox church. I would even go to, I haven't been, my husband's been to some Buddhist services. Like, I'm like, kind of like, I'm not going to shelter my kid to where you only get this and you can't associate with anyone not in this, right? And that's not it. But I am going to say, this is what I believe is the best way to live. And it would be wrong of me as a parent not to tell you that. Like,
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Like we have but I'm in my early 40s now. If I could go back in time and save my 20-year-old some heartache, I would. I don't think my 20-year-old version of myself would listen, but I would try to be like, hey, might want to get into church sooner rather than later. Like, hey, crazy lady in the future.
Hey, well, better late than never.
It's never late. That's the good news.
Right. Can I just say something else? You guys have such great energy and laughs, and usually I try and look professional for shows, and you both look so lovely, and I don't look. You got to have me back on with one of my lovely hats, and I'll get dressed up.
It's already done.
Yeah, you are okay. Yes,
so
as
gross.
you wish. Can we come back anytime? No, I mean, truly, I found you on another channel, but let's just say, like, your spirit was kind of a kindred spirit that I could pick up immediately, that I bonded towards and really liked. And so you are welcome anytime.
And I can be on the quiet side, definitely. I get accused
you
of.
brought out talking of Natalie. It's amazing.
Well, I do. I love the Lord, and it comes out. You talk about what you love, and it's but gosh, what was I saying? I'm so ADD.
We're both ADHD. She's ADHD and attentive. I'm ADHD hyperactive.
But what I was saying is sometimes I would just be quiet when she's talking because I would get like so in the zone, and then she'd say something. I'd be like, "Wait a minute, hold on, that was deep." It's like think about it a minute. But so this was a pleasure.
Yes, definitely.
I also just I like talking to people who aren't afraid of talking about their faith. I was for a while when I was first, because I'm still pretty new Christian. And when we first started doing Unsafe Space, it's me and my friend Carter, and he's an atheist, but he's the one that outed me. We didn't even talk about it ahead of time. He was like on a live show, and Keri, and you're Christian. What do you? I was like, what? But I'm glad he did. Because I think my inclination was to be afraid of even talking about that. And now I'm at a different place where I think the more that I'm growing in my relationship with God, the more it's like the more I'm trusting that it's okay. It's okay if anybody gets the wrong idea and they write me off. And they write me off as just one of those, there are a lot of Christians who I think, like in any belief system, maybe they've been in it so long, they're not really living it or thinking about it.
Yes.
Connecting to it deeply, or maybe they were raised in it and they've never interrogated it, and their faith is very shallow because they've never had it tested. And so I know people lump me in with all that sometimes, or they just hear like, "Oh, this is dumb." All the stereotypes I used to have about Christians, and I know people have that, but that's okay.
But
they can think that.
I do the same thing myself, being raised around it and everything. And I came back to the Lord when I was 19 and pregnant. And so, but Michelle's like, probably didn't want you to share that. But the Lord used that, and I gave my life back to him. But, gosh, I lost my train of thought.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But you're saying you're not like who cares what people think?
Yeah. But I'm saying, I see what you're saying, because I still get, sometimes it's almost like I find myself like I want to be like, oh, but I'm not that kind of Christian, or oh, but I'm not, it's like, and it's like you said, some people, they're going to think what they're going to think anyway. Like no matter how many disclaimers you give, and that you're not hateful and you're not like this, and you're, it is what it is sometimes.
And if you're living the right way, they'll see it anyway. You don't have to talk about it. It's like most of the people who end up asking me about my faith, that they don't even know. We get there by accident. It's not like I'm going out like, I'm a Christian, guys. Come talk to me about it. Like it's just sort of like things come up. People have always talked to me about, I don't know, it gets really deep with me pretty quickly. Like, do you believe in God? Like sentence 4, like, or let me tell you my life story. That happens when people tell me their life stories a lot. So
yes, no, I mean, definitely. Well, again, like you said too, when it's a belief system, it's just like them. If you talk to an SJW, their belief system's going to come out probably within a few minutes. I mean, it really is. And it should be the same with Christians that are genuinely Christian.
Right.
And are not just nominal Christians, Christian in name only.
I think, Anyway, I'm highly caffeinated. That's why I'm like you. I'm the hyperactive one tonight.
I'm always hyperactive.
Yes.
So it is what it is as far as that. But yes, thank you so much, Keri, for coming on. I, again, am a big fan of yours
Yes, me too.
Because I mean, I genuinely, and we'll talk about this more on your show, just, even when I sent that out to my friends from the seminary, and so they got so much out of watching or listening to you talk about it, just kind of piece together some things that we felt were off, but we could never quite put our fingers on what exactly it was. And again, I mean, Natalie said that tonight, like my whole ideals began to shift. And I'm someone who...
And it helped you so much.
It did. It helped me so much kind of overcome some things.
Almost to get the chip off your shoulder. Like, okay, men aren't just, sexist, like basically.
Yes. So, I'm looking forward to talking with you more.
Me too. We'll have you on Unsafe Space. And already you should know, so we're going to do the interview with you, but then after that, we do our Casual Fridays, our live show where we have different friends of the show on. And Mr. Cameron Pasha has already suggested that he be on a show with you ladies.
Oh,
do you know him?
Yes,
awesome.
He's been
he
on.
Loves
We
you.
had a lot of fun with him.
He was like, put me on the Force Light Ladies. I love them. I'm like, okay.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Keri, again, thank you so much. Yes,
thank you.
Thank
you for being so patient with me. And I promise once I get into the new house and the move's over and I'm not painting and it'll be a little more smooth. And anyway, thank you. Thank you for your forgiveness.
We're just so happy you could come. This was awesome.
We are. She's like, man, they're my fans. I'm going to bring her on my channel more. Because we are. We're big fans of you, Keri. We are. We appreciate the work that you do, genuinely.
Well, I'm so happy to meet you. And I'm happy you're doing what you're doing. And I'm happy. I mean, like I said before, everybody has a different like way of talking about this. And that's great. And I love that you're unabashed about your Christian faith. And just a final recommendation for anybody watching who's interested in sort of social justice and Christianity. 3 of my favorite people to recommend. 2 of them are former social justice warriors like me, who were in it for like 2 decades like me, but they were Christian while they were in it, which is a little different. Like, because I was not Christian. Yes. So one is Monique Dusson. I always pronounce it wrong. From the Center for Biblical Unity. She's amazing. You can find her at the Center for Biblical Unity. The other is Gracie West, and she goes by Embarrassing Mom on YouTube. And she's also an author. And then 2 people who were not in the social justice movement, but I think do great Christian critiques of it, are Samuel Say. He wrote a whole essay about the gospel and social justice and how they're antithetical. They don't go together. Samuel Say, and then K. Dubtrue, who is a Christian rapper, and his name's Chris Williams. Yeah, he's awesome. He has lots of interesting interviews on his channel, but there's a lot of people in that space now who are critiquing it from the Christian point of view. And I think that's really necessary because it's like, it is making big inroads in the church, so anyway.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. Well, thank you, Keri, and thank you to everyone in the chat.
Thank you very
You guys
much.
are awesome. We love you guys. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be a force of light. All right.